I've received several requests from viewers regarding the so-called Mafia's calling card when it comes to murders. Let's begin. In the past, many victims of mob hits have ended up in a barrel. And while there's no specific meaning behind this method, it can be traced back to the Mafia's early days in New York City. On May 8, 1903, Benedetto Madonia was killed by the Giuseppe Morello gang, which over time transformed into the Genovese family. The barrel containing Madonia's body was discovered by a woman walking to work on East 11th Street. Throughout history, several famous mob hits ended with the victim being placed in a barrel, such as Johnny Roselli, a member of the Chicago mob, whose body was discovered in August 1976 by a fisherman who seen the floating barrel near Miami, Florida. In April 1984, a severed body was discovered in a New Jersey warehouse, placed inside 360-gallon drums. The remains belonged to Bonanno captain and former bodyguard of Carmen Galante, Cesare Bonventre. There are several methods when the Mafia wants to send a specific message. For instance, on August 24, 1990, Lucchese member Bruno Facciolo, who was falsely accused of being an informant, was ordered to be killed by Lucchese boss Vicamuso. Although that order came with a twist, he wanted a canary placed in Fasciola's mouth. This order was relayed by acting boss Al Diaco to Lucchese soldier Louis Dedone. Prior to the murder, Dedone acquired a dead canary and placed it in the freezer. Fasciola was lured to a Brooklyn garage, where he was stabbed and shot to death. Dedone then placed the adoring canary in his mouth. The message being, this is what happens to anyone who sings like a canary. On August 17, 1981, Dominic Sonny Black Napolitano, a Bonanno captain, was called to a meeting in the basement and killed. His sin was having FBI Joe Pistone, who posed on the cover as Donnie Brasco, as an associate. Napolitano's body was found on August 12, 1982, in Staten Island. His hands had been severed, a message clearly meaning, be careful who you introduce your friends to. One of the more famous scenes in The Godfather is when Tessio hands Sonny Corleone a bulletproof vest belonging to Luca Brasi. In it was dead fish. And Tessio explained, it's a Sicilian message, meaning Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. In correlation to that, on January 4, 1988, Jimmy Rotundo, a captain in the DeCavalcanti family, was killed behind the wheel of his car outside of his Brooklyn home, and in his lap was a jar of squid. The police speculated the fish was his dinner, but who buys fish and drives with it in their lap? In Italy, the 'Ndrangheta would strategically plan murders on festive days so that the victims' relatives are forced to mourn their loved ones instead of celebrating. Italian prison guard Giuseppe Montalto was shot while getting in a car with his wife and 10-month-old daughter. The date he was killed was December 23, 1995. The reason behind his murder was a Christmas gift to the bosses locked up at the prison. Both the Sicilian Mafia and the 'Ndrangheta would also plan murders on anniversaries. For example, if a murder was committed on August 2, 1989, they'd seek revenge on the person held responsible on August 2, 2009. Sicilians favored using the lupare, which is a sawed-off shotgun, mainly because of the damage the weapon caused. If aimed at the head, there'd be nothing or very little left. Again, this is done to add further pain to the victim's family. I've mentioned several times the Lupata Bianca method of murder, where the victim disappears, usually by placing the body in a barrel of acid or encasing it in cement. On May 6, 2016, the 'Ndrangheta took making a victim disappear to a new level. Maria Cindamo, a widow who owned a farm, was killed by having her body run over by a tractor, and then her remains were fed to pigs. Sicilian-born John Stanford, who became the Philadelphia boss in 1991, when challenged by the neighborhood punks in Philly, he wanted to exact Sicilian revenge on one person in particular. In a recorded conversation, Stanford can be heard saying, "I'll get a knife, I'll cut out his tongue, and we'll send it to his wife. That's all. We'll put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it." That message being, this is how we deal with a guy who has a big mouth and likes to talk. Fortunately, that plan never came to fruition. The infamous hit that killed Gambino underboss Frankie DeCicco on April 12, 1986, where his 1985 Buick was blown up, killing him instantly, was made to look like a Sicilian calling card, when in fact, it was the Lucchese and Genovese families who were responsible. When acting Genovese Captain Ralph Coppola was accused of skimming, pocketing money that was supposed to be kicked up to his administration, he disappeared on September 16, 1998. His body has never been located, but the West Side leaked one specific detail. His head was severed. As a message to other family members, this is what will happen if you think about skimming. Sometimes a victim's hands are severed for the same reason or for someone who is found to be greedy. In the case of Pietro Inzerillo, a murder ordered by Totorina, on January 14, 1982, Inzerillo's body was found in the trunk of a car parked in the parking lot of the Hilton Hotel in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. There was money stuffed in his mouth and around his genital area, a clear message of greed. When Antonio Capronegro, former consigliere of the Bruno family in Philadelphia, had the family boss, Angelo Bruno, murdered in March of 1980, a murder that was deemed unsanctioned by the commission, and on April 18, 1980, Capronegro was found shot and beaten to death in the trunk of a car in the South Bronx. He had money stuffed in his mouth and anus, another sign of greed. When the Pennisi killed Salvatore Inzerillo in May of 1981, Inzerillo's teenage son Giuseppe vowed to avenge his father's death. Totorina sent Pino Greco to deal with him. Before killing the teen, Greco cut off his arm, another Sicilian message. You'll lose the arm you seek revenge with. There are numerous examples of hits with meaning behind the way in which they were carried out. I've only touched the surface, but there are much more. Signature killings are patterns of distinctive behavior that usually satisfy the perpetrator's psychological needs. Years ago, the Mafia not only wanted to leave a clue as to why a person was murdered, but more so a message to the public and its members, which came in the form of the most drastic warning. Do what this person did, and this is what will happen to you. Let me quickly mention the Super Thanks icon found beneath this video. Its purpose is for anyone who wants to show their appreciation for videos such as this one, and I appreciate anyone who uses it. As a former member and now a civilian, what I find most disturbing is how some people applaud Mafia murders. In fact, some are even hopeful that the days where bodies were left lying in the street will return. And I say to these people, be careful what you wish for, because your wish could very well strike close to home. Anyway, in my opinion, it was the Sicilians, who are usually known to have a reason for anything they do, who favored signature murders. For instance, you go with a member's wife or girl, they not only kill you, but you're found with either your penis or your testicles in your mouth. A message that's loud and clear for everyone. Speaking of which, there is a story, whether it's true or not, that Joe Colombo's father experienced the same consequences. Don't forget, one of the rules told to you is you don't go with another member's wife or girl. I'll end with this. There's enough bad going on in the world. So if you're going to wish for something good.